The first thing I remember about leaving Earth was how quiet it was. Not the launch, of course. That was deafening. The shuttle's engines screamed, pressing me so hard into my seat I thought my ribs would crack. But then came the silence, the kind that hums in your skull, where you realize that between you and eternity there's nothing but layers of metal and glass. My name's Callan Vayers. I wasn't drafted. I wasn't forced. I chose this life. When I signed up for the Outer Limits Division, a specialized branch of the military meant for deep space reconnaissance, they promised danger, isolation, and a paycheck fat enough to erase every debt I'd ever had. That was enough for me. What they didn't tell us, at least not in detail, was where we'd be going. It wasn't until we were halfway through orbit that the mission commander, Captain Idra Miles, finally told us the name. Kepler 188G. A planet orbiting a faint star, newly confirmed habitable. "We're not colonizing," she said, pacing in front of the strapped-in unit, her boots magnetized to the deck. "We're not prospecting, we're guarding. That's it. Orders are simple. Maintain perimeter, report anomalies, and ensure nothing leaves the outpost unauthorized. Nothing." The way she said nothing sent a ripple through the squad. Even with years of military discipline, I caught the way guys exchanged glances, the way lips twitched. Guarding? Must out there? Who the hell would we be guarding against? I kept quiet, but my mind was racing. Outpost duty wasn't glamorous, but the secrecy, the tightness in the captain's voice, it hinted at something else. The voyage lasted 3 weeks. Sleep cycles blurred, space drills kept us sharp. We ran simulated breaches, weapons checks, and oxygen ration protocols until we could do them half asleep, which was good, because half the time we were. And then the planet came into view. Kepler wasn't like Earth. From orbit, it was darker, a kind of burnt green ocean and shadowed continents, with thick swirls of copper-colored clouds. It didn't look alive, not really. It looked like a wound. But there was light. Down there, tucked into one of the darker continents, was the glint of steel. The outpost. None of us asked how it was already there, who built it, or why the hell we were being stationed to guard it. We were soldiers. We followed orders. But the silence in the shuttle as we descended told me I wasn't the only one thinking it. Because that outpost looked old, older than us, and maybe not built by human hands. The shuttle shuddered as we cut through the planet's atmosphere. The copper clouds peeled away, streaking past the viewport in molten ribbons. My harness dug into my chest as turbulence tossed us, and for a split second, I swore I heard a groan echoing from the hull, like the planet itself was protesting our arrival. We broke through, and the outpost came into focus. It was huge, larger than any of us had imagined. A sprawling hexagonal structure of dark alloy, jutting from a blackened plateau like it had been grown instead of built. Towers rose at uneven angles, some thicker than others, with spines of what looked like antennae stabbing skyward. No insignias, no flags, no signs of ownership, just metal against alien rock. "Jesus," muttered Duran, the guy strapped in next to me. He'd been in 2 tours before this, claimed nothing rattled him, but his voice cracked. "That doesn't look human." Captain Miles's voice cut sharp through the cabin. "Quiet." We touched down on a landing pad etched into the plateau. The pad's surface wasn't military-grade steel like I'd expected. It was smooth, dark, and seemed to shimmer when the landing thrusters flared. When the hatch opened, I got my first breath of Kepler air. The atmosphere had been declared breathable during pre-mission briefings, but still, I hesitated. Then the helmet sensors blinked green, so I unsealed it. The air was heavy, not poisoned, just thick. It tasted metallic, like breathing through a copper pipe. Every inhale clung to my throat, like the planet didn't want to let it go. "Squad, form up," Miles barked, stepping onto the surface with that unshakable command presence. Her boots clanged against the alien alloy like it had been waiting for her. "We're moving to secure the central command hub. Eyes sharp." The march from the shuttle to the outpost was silent, except for the crunch of gravel and the hum of our gear. The plateau was barren, no trees, no vegetation, not even the whisper of wind. just us and the looming structure ahead. When we reached the entrance, the doors opened automatically. No human keypads, no visible controls, just a slow hiss and a parting of alloy plates like an eye blinking open. Inside, the corridors stretched long and dim, lit by a pale green glow that pulsed faintly, like veins under skin. The walls weren't smooth, they were ribbed, organic, almost like bone. Private Ashira, the youngest in the squad, whispered what we were all thinking. This place wasn't built by us. Miles didn't answer. She just kept moving, but I noticed her hand resting tight on the grip of her rifle. We followed her into the central hub, where we found rows of consoles and monitors already active, screens glowing with symbols none of us could read. They weren't human characters, more like patterns, spirals, geometric clusters. But the strangest part wasn't the tech, it was the chair in the middle of the room. Not a normal chair. It was huge, carved from the same black alloy as the outpost itself, with long curved extensions that stretched out like rib cages. And it wasn't empty. There was something sitting in it. Not moving, not breathing, but definitely something. A husk. Tall, skeletal, with a skull-like head slumped forward, its elongated limbs draped across the chair's arms. It had been dead for who knows how long, its dark skin stretched tight like leather over bone. The silence was suffocating. Then, with a low hum, every console in the room flickered to life at once. The corpse's head jerked up. Its head snapped upright with such force that the cracking sound echoed through the chamber. I froze, my rifle halfway raised, my breath locked in my throat. The thing's eye sockets weren't empty. They burned. 2 dull embers glowed deep within, like someone had dropped hot coals into a skull. The rest of its body didn't move, just that head, jerking slightly as if trying to find the source of sound, of life. "Steady!" Captain Miles's voice cut through the fear, but I heard the tremor she tried to hide. "Weapons at the ready." The husk's jaw opened, not like a human's, hinged and smooth, but in a twitching, grinding way, like dry bones forced apart after centuries of stillness. The noise was horrific, a rasp of stone grinding stone. And then, it spoke. Not in words. It was a sound that drilled into my skull, a layered static, almost like radio transmissions overlapped, dozens of voices speaking at once, but none making sense. I staggered, clutching the side of my helmet as it rattled through my head. Ashira dropped her rifle, her palms pressed hard against her ears. "Make it stop," she cried, her voice cracking. The consoles around the room began spitting symbols across their screens, spinning too fast to register. Lines of geometric clusters, spirals morphing into different forms, flashing in rhythms that felt deliberate, a language. The husk slowly rose from the chair. Its limbs unfolded with creaks and snaps, far longer than I'd expected. Its arms reached nearly to the floor, ending in claw-like fingers that flexed as though waking up for the first time. It stood taller than any of us, easily 9 feet. "Light it up!" Duran shouted, pulling the trigger. Gunfire ripped through the chamber, the sound deafening as rounds sparked against the husk's body, but the thing didn't fall. It didn't even flinch. Bullets punched holes into its torso, chunks of dried flesh tearing away to reveal black alloy beneath, metal fused with bone. It was part corpse, part machine, and it was awake now. The static scream built in pitch, shaking the air. One of the consoles exploded in a burst of sparks, the green glow bathing us in pulses like a heartbeat. "Fall back," Miles ordered, her voice a bark of desperation. But before we could retreat, the husk moved. It didn't lunge, didn't stumble. It blurred. One moment it was in front of us. The next it was right there, standing in the middle of our formation. Its elongated arm swept sideways with inhuman speed, catching Duran across the chest. He flew, not stumbled, flew. He slammed against the far wall with a sickening crunch, his rifle clattering to the floor. He didn't get back up. My stomach lurched, my hands shook. I kept my rifle trained on it, but every instinct screamed that shooting wasn't enough. This wasn't something we could kill with bullets. The husk turned its burning eyes on me. For the first time, I felt it, not just saw it. A pressure in my head, a thought that wasn't mine. Guardians awaken. The words weren't spoken aloud. They vibrated inside my skull, like someone whispering from within my own thoughts. I staggered back a step, heart hammering, rifle clutched tight against my shoulder. The husk's eyes glowed hotter, its skeletal frame twitching with alien spasms. Miles fired again, screaming, "Cover fire! Move!" Ashira dragged me by my vest, yanking me toward the door. I fired on instinct, the bullets sparking uselessly off its torso. The husk moved faster than I could track, sidestepping in a blur. Duran's limp body still hung crumpled against the far wall, blood already pooling beneath him. The chamber erupted into chaos. Gunfire echoed, sparks rained down from shattered consoles. Alarms we hadn't triggered blared in the walls like a building crying out in pain. The husk leapt forward. Its clawed arm missed Miles by inches, smashing into the metal bulkhead instead. Steel groaned and folded like soft tin, the impact rattling the whole structure. The vibration went through my boots, through my bones. We ran. Through the dark corridors, breath tearing at my lungs, footsteps slamming against metal grates. My helmet HUD flickered with interference, the same geometric symbols flashing across the display as if the thing was inside our systems now, rewriting them. "Where the hell are we going?" Ashira panted beside me, voice sharp with panic. "Anywhere it isn't," I snapped, my chest heaving. Miles kept ahead, flashlight beam slicing through the dark. "Command post, we hold there," she barked. Her voice was strong, but I could hear it, the crack, the fear she couldn't keep buried anymore. Behind us, something shrieked. Not like before. Not the static scream. This was physical, tearing at the air. Metal grinding against metal, walls vibrating as though the husk's voice could shake the entire structure apart. We turned a corner, and the floor ahead dropped open into a pit of darkness. The walkway had collapsed, the metal-grated path torn down into some cavernous shaft. Cables dangled loose, sparking, swaying in the stale air. "Shit! No way across!" Ashira shouted. "Up!" Miles pointed to a ladder bolted against the wall, running toward a hatch above. She climbed first, her boots clanging against the rungs. Ashira followed, fumbling with her grip, her breath ragged. I covered the rear, rifle aimed down the corridor we'd just come through. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. My eyes kept flicking to every flicker of light, every shadow. And then, it came. The husk stepped into view at the far end of the hall, its burning eyes locking onto me, its head cocked, jerking like a broken puppet. And then it started walking, not running, not rushing, walking like it knew we couldn't escape. "Oh, go, go!" I hissed, scrambling up the ladder after Ashira. As I climbed, I looked down. The husk tilted its head up toward me. And then it spoke again. "You are late." The words cracked in my skull like glass under pressure. I nearly lost my grip. Miles yanked the hatch open, pulling herself through. Ashira reached the top and grabbed my arm, hauling me the last few rungs. The hatch slammed shut just as the corridor below erupted with another inhuman shriek. We collapsed in the new chamber, gasping, the silence around us oppressive. My ears rang, my chest burned, and the words still echoed in my head. "You are late." The chamber was wider than the others, circular, lined with banks of dormant screens. Dust clung thick to everything, as if no one had set foot here in years. The lights flickered, weak, some powered by a system running on its last breath. Miles paced fast, her weapon clutched so tightly the barrel trembled in her hands. "That wasn't a man," she muttered. "That wasn't a man." Ashira slammed the hatch shut behind us, locking the wheel. "No shit, Sergeant. Whatever it is, it killed Duran like he was nothing." I leaned against the nearest console, sweat slicking down my back, rifle still in my grip, even though my arms felt like lead. My heart wouldn't calm. The thing's words weren't fading. They were stuck, repeating in my skull. "You are late. You are late." I swallowed hard. It spoke. Both of them snapped their eyes to me. "What?" Ashira said. I wiped my mouth, my voice cracking. I heard it, in my head, clear as you're hearing me now. It said, "We're late." Ashira cursed, running both hands through her short hair, pacing fast. "That's not possible. That's not—" Miles cut her off. "I don't care how the hell it's talking. What matters is what it's doing here, and what we're supposed to be doing here." She said it like a confession, like she already knew more than she wanted to admit. I pushed off the console, staring at her. "You've been holding out." Her jaw tightened. "Don't look at me like that," I said, anger bubbling under my fear. "You've known this wasn't just some guard duty, didn't you?" Ashira looked between us, her voice rising. "Sergeant?" Miles turned away, staring at the broken monitors, as if they'd tell her what to say. Finally, she muttered. "Command told me this was a classified containment operation. We were to secure and guard an outpost until reinforcements arrived." "Contain what?" I pressed, heat flaring in my chest. Miles's silence was my answer. "You've got to be kidding me," Ashira hissed. They knew. They knew something was here, and they sent us in blind." Before Miles could defend herself, one of the screens flickered to life. Static, then shapes. A figure in a dark uniform appeared, face half obscured, voice garbled, but human. "Outpost Kepler 9 breach confirmed," the voice said. "Hostile entity has left primary chamber. Secondary units contain perimeter. Do not attempt direct engagement. Repeat, do not attempt direct engagement." Ashira's mouth hung open. Ashira screamed beneath the thing, kicking, fighting, trying to claw free. I squeezed the trigger. The pistol cracked. Once, twice, 3 times. The husk's skull burst, pale matter spraying across the floor. It collapsed, twitching violently before going still, its grip on Ashira loosening. I staggered forward, my whole body trembling. You okay?" I rasped, hauling Ashira up. Her chest heaved, her face pale but alive. Miles coughed, struggling to stand. "That thing wasn't alone," she wheezed, pointing at the vent above. I looked up. Movement. Not 1, not 2. A dozen sets of pale fingers curling over the edge of the ductwork, all pulling forward. The metal groaned under their combined weight. The sound of hissing laughter seeped from the shadows above. And then they began to drop. The first one hit the floor with a sickening crack, landing in a crouch, eyes gleaming like shards of ice. Another followed, then 2 more, each one moving with unnerving synchronicity, their heads tilting in unison, as if sizing us up. "Fall back," Ashira barked, dragging Miles to her feet. We stumbled toward the blast doors, but the creatures were faster, their limbs bent at angles that shouldn't have supported movement, yet they darted forward like insects, claws clicking against the steel floor. I fired into the nearest one, 3 rounds punching into its chest. It staggered, but didn't fall. The others hissed, the sound layered, like 100 voices whispering in my ear at once. Ashira shoved Miles toward the wall console, slamming her fist against the controls. "Open! Damn it! Open!" The system buzzed, the screen flashing red. Security. Lockdown. "They've sealed it," Miles croaked, her voice ragged from the husk's chokehold. "We're trapped in here with them." The first creature lunged. I barely sidestepped, feeling its claws rake across my armor, shredding the plating like it was nothing. I fired point blank into its face. Bone and flesh sprayed, but even headless it thrashed, spasming, clawing blindly. Ashira kicked it backward, sending the twitching body into the others. For half a second, it slowed them down. "Ventilation shaft," I shouted, pointing to the far corner. A grate hung loose, barely clinging to its screws. "Too small," Ashira growled, but her eyes flicked to Miles. She knew what I meant. Miles staggered toward it while Ashira and I opened fire, every shot lighting the chamber with sharp bursts of muzzle flash. The husks kept coming, jerking and twisting like marionettes, their voices still inside my skull. "Run. Hide. You are prey. Prey." One of them darted